Let's first understand what do I mean by dopamine and how it can be cheap and earned. Let's first understand the difference between cheap and earned dopamine. But before that, let me take you to my first question, which is what dopamine actually is. Many people confuse dopamine to be the pleasure chemical. It's not actually pleasure chemical, it is the reward chemical. It is a motivation chemical that drives you to seek rewards. And I will help you understand this with the help of an experiment that was conducted on rats. So how do we know for sure that dopamine is about motivation and not pleasure? The proof comes from a series of landmark experiments with rats that completely changed our understanding of the brain. In the first phase, scientists implanted tiny electrodes, some scientific devices, into the dopamine producing region of a rat's brain. This region is often called the reward circuit. So just understand that something was installed in the reward circuit of rats. They then set up a lever in the cage where the rats were kept. Every time the rat pressed the lever, it would trigger a tiny electrical stimulation, giving its brain a direct artificial hit of dopamine. So dopamine isn't when you are happy. No, when you're receiving something. No, dopamine is more about that happiness that you get, that kick that you get in anticipation that you're going to receive something now. So this is more in the moment of anticipation. The result was immediate and shocking. The rats became obsessed. They weren't just casual users. They became full-blown addicts. They would press the lever hundreds, sometimes thousands of times in an hour. They would ignore food, water, and even opportunities to mate. Their entire world, their entire existence, everything narrowed down to one single frantic action of pressing the lever to get more dopamine. This powerfully demonstrated that dopamine creates an overwhelming, almost uncontrollable drive or craving. But here's where it gets fascinating. The scientists then flipped the experiment. They took a new group of rats and chemically blocked the dopamine receptors. They essentially turned off the wanting system, okay? They closed it off to see what happens next. As you'd expect, these rats became the complete opposite. They were totally lethargic. They showed zero motivation. You could place their favorite treat right in front of them, just a few inches away, and they wouldn't even bother to get up and eat it. Their drive was completely gone. And this is the crucial part that changed everything. When the researchers took that same piece of food and placed it directly in the rat's mouth, the rat would happily chew and swallow it. It would even make the rat equivalent of yum faces, showing all the signs of genuine pleasure. Think about what that means. The rat still liked the food, but it no longer wanted it. There's a difference. You still like jalebi, but you don't want jalebi. That feeling of ordering for jalebi is missing. It had lost all motivation to seek it out. This experiment perfectly split the two ideas. Pleasure is the liking. Dopamine is the relentless wanting. It's not the reward itself. It's the engine that drives you to pursue it. That engine that pushes you into taking actions to do something that is rewarding for you. And it is this powerful engine of wanting that modern technology has learned to hijack so perfectly. Now let's understand what cheap and what earned dopamine exactly means. Cheap dopamine is low effort, instant, unpredictable rewards. This is the dopamine that weakens your focus. You're not working for it. You're just ordering the food and it's getting delivered to your door and you're just getting to pop it inside your mouth. That is junk food. Cheap dopamine. You didn't work for it. Social media feed. Okay, I don't need to even start with it. You know it already what I mean. Just this. And 2 hours gone. And we're like, we don't even remember what we were doing for the last 2 hours. We're like, what happened in the last 2 hours? Where did my time go? That is cheap dopamine. Earned dopamine, on the other hand, is high effort, it's delayed, it's meaningful rewards. This is the dopamine that builds discipline and satisfaction. And that is why social media may make your time fly. Junk food may make you happy momentarily, but there is no satisfaction, and of course there is no building of discipline whatsoever. None. You're not a better person. after doing any of that. You can perceive earned dopamine with a few examples like completing a complex project, or maybe working at your language skills and getting better at it with months going by, maybe getting a diploma at something, finishing a marathon. All of those are earned dopamine. You worked for it. It wasn't cheap. It was something that you sweat out for. Our modern world is a fire hose of cheap dopamine, making the earned path feel impossibly difficult by comparison. So suddenly, everything that maybe the millennial kids were experimenting a joy in, they feel impossible now. People don't want to slog themselves. People don't want to put in that extra effort because they are so habitual of receiving that kick without doing anything, without putting in effort. Everything is available around you. Now here's the conspiracy, how they hijacked your brain. This isn't an accident, of course, it's a design. This is called the slot machine effect. Slot machines are those poker machines people play with in a casino. You hit the lever and it displays something on the screen, and you never know what the next display would be. So you keep pulling the lever. That is what a slot machine does. And this is exactly the principle, the psychological principle on which Instagram and TikTok, all these algorithms are built at. They have hijacked your brain. You're always looking for the next. You never know if the next scroll will deliver a great video. So you keep pulling the lever. Okay, this is what you keep doing. Have you noticed how when you scroll on a social media app, there is no ending point to it. There is no stopping point. It is endless. It is indefinite. And this is obviously purposeful. It is deliberate choice to keep you engaged indefinitely. Of course, there is social validation and FOMO, the world famous factor of why we do almost everything that we do these days. It's the FOMO. The likes and the comments and the streaks are quantified social approval. Your number of likes is something that drives you crazy these days. It's turning human connection into a game you're incentivized to keep playing. If you look at it with the perspective of a game, you'll understand this is actually a game that is designed to draw your attention, to draw your focus, to keep you hooked. The chains are such that you cannot move on to doing something else. You're so entangled in those wires. Notifications exploit a primal need to stay informed about a social standing. If I were you, I would switch off the notifications for almost everything. I mean, this is the only way I can maintain my sanity, and believe me, I do not have my notifications on. Now, here comes the true cost. These are the symptoms of a dopamine-fried brain. First is your cognitive cost, the death of deep work. Your attention span has shrunk like anything, and you know it. You know it. You can't focus long enough to learn hard skills, read complex books, or produce high-value work anymore. It is becoming increasingly difficult. Tell me the last time you read a good book. Or you even did a small research of finding out what book to read next. These small tasks that of course involve your brain, and they involve you to sit silently in a place without connecting on a shallow level with others, that is virtual level, that is through social media. When was the last time you actually did an activity that involved your focus, that questioned you over maybe an hour of your life in a day? Next is of course your emotional cost. Anhedonia. You no more find joy in the little things that our parents used to find fantastic, like, going out and having golgappas, or maybe calling up a friend and talking with them and finding out about their day, or maybe just sitting in a living room with your friends, chit-chatting. Those normal pleasures are more or less disappearing these days because our brains are overstimulated with cheap hits of dopamine. Hobbies do not feel interesting anymore. We don't want to paint. We don't want to sketch. I don't see many people indulging in hobbies anymore, especially the kids. The conversations feel dull. The life has lost its color. Your dopamine baseline is so high that reality cannot compete. The reality will never be able to catch up. It will always feel boring. And here's the ultimate cost, the unfulfilled potential. The dopamine trap doesn't just waste your time. It slowly erodes your ambition, your ability to pursue your real goals. It's the silent killer of dreams. This is what being programmed for mediocrity truly means. When you cannot do the hard work, when you cannot do the hard task, you've lost that capability. You're no more intrigued by those things. You're no more intrigued by the reward that gets out of working for 4 or 5 years on achieving something. You're no more driven by that. Of course, you're programmed for a life of mediocrity. What else?